Every clean shot Wongqing lands turns real combat into permanent archery progress his panel can record and keep. Tonight, that grinding advantage is the only reason one young archer can challenge an entire barbarian camp. He is already inside enemy territory, watching armored snow wolves patrol beside soldiers who can call them with bone whistles. One mistake means the wolves catch his scent, the guards close every escape route, and Juma Pass loses its best chance. This panel does not reward reading or wishful thinking. Useful practice and real action are what push proficiency upward. That rule has carried his archery into great accomplishment, while his body remains only at peace tempering. Before this night ends, his arrows will pull hundreds of enemies away from the grain stores his allies must burn. If Wongqing survives the hunt, the same battlefield meant to kill him will become another brutal training ground. Fire pits sit every 20 paces around the camp, and guards stamp their feet while snow hardens around their boots. Behind a northern fence, dozens of white wolves lie under iron collars with frozen blood crusted across their muzzles. Wongqing studies the wind before moving because ordinary men can be fooled, but a trained wolf follows scent without hesitation. The breeze is blowing south, so approaching from the west would deliver his smell directly into the animals' noses. He circles toward the eastern downwind side instead, testing each patch of snow before committing his weight. Every step is slow enough to avoid buried twigs, brittle ice, and anything that could crack beneath him. This is old hunting discipline, the kind that turns a person into something closer to moving stone than marching soldier. After a long crawl through darkness, Wongqing reaches a thinner section of perimeter where the campfires cast weaker light. Then he notices one guard who never warms his hands, never chats, and never relaxes his watch on the forest. The man holds a bone whistle and keeps checking the wolf pen, marking him immediately as a handler. If that whistle sounds during the raid, dozens of wolves can flood the forest and erase every advantage Wongqing has. The handler, therefore, becomes the first target, not because he is strongest, but because his survival changes the whole battlefield. Wongqing raises his heavy bow while the wind sways the nearest flames and distorts every easy line of aim. Rather than gamble on the smaller head, he settles the arrow on the man's throat and waits through the gust. The string releases silently, and the heavy shaft crosses the dark before punching through the handler's neck. His body collapses into deep snow, muting the fall and preventing the bone whistle from giving the camp warning. Another sentry notices movement near the fence and starts toward the fallen man with one hand reaching for an alarm gong. Wongqing shifts position before firing again, refusing to give the enemy two shots from the same angle. One arrow knocks the gong loose, so it drops into deep snow instead of ringing through the frozen camp. The sentry stumbles toward it, and a second shaft from a new direction punches into his ribs. Wongqing does not waste time admiring either kill, because random bodies are not the objective of this infiltration. He needs to dismantle communication by removing handlers, and anyone capable of restoring order. An 8-man patrol reaches the eastern perimeter and spots the dead sentries before Wongqing can disappear completely. Their officer reacts well, stopping the group with a fist instead of shouting, and instantly spreading them into formation. Shields move forward. Archers prepare behind them. And flankers widen their spacing. Proving these are experienced battlefield soldiers. Wongqing has no time for a slow exchange, so he knocks 3 heavy arrows together and draws the bow. The first shaft strikes below a shield, folding the lead defender onto one knee and tilting his protection sideways. That tiny opening exposes the archer behind him, and the second arrow drives straight through the newly revealed target. Wongqing sends the third arrow past the officer entirely and destroys the signal horn hanging from another soldier's belt. Only then does the patrol leader understand that the unseen archer is attacking their command structure, not simply collecting kills. He finally orders an attack, but Wongqing has already moved onto a low snow ridge 30 paces away. The officer sees a face far younger than expected and a heavy bow already pulled back for another release. Wongqing fires first, dropping the patrol leader before the formation can reorganize around his orders. The remaining soldiers surge toward the ridge, but by the time they reach it, only filling footprints remain. Shouts spread from the east while the broken pen creates confusion in the north at exactly the same time. Wongqing knows confusion alone will not move the guards still protecting the grain warehouses at the camp's center. He cuts through the forest, toward the southern side, where a tall watchtower carries the camp's main war drum. Two soldiers stand above the perimeter, both watching the eastern disturbance and waiting for a clear command to sound alarm. Wongqing drops the first drummer through the back before the man realizes the real threat has already moved south. The dying soldier falls forward, and his slipping drumstick accidentally lands one heavy strike against the drum. A single booming note rolls across the camp, confusing everyone because it sounds official without carrying any recognizable pattern. The second drummer reaches down for the fallen stick, exposing himself below the railing at the worst possible moment. Wongqing shoots upward beneath his guard and sends the second body collapsing directly onto the drumhead. Another accidental boom sounds, creating even more conflicting movement, as soldiers try to interpret an alarm nobody actually ordered. Southern troops leave their tents while northern handlers shout about loose wolves, and eastern guards report invisible attackers. The camp begins fighting its own uncertainty, but Wongqing watches the center and sees the grain defenses remain stubbornly intact. Their commander arrives in black armor and a white wolf pelt, cutting through the panic with immediate disciplined orders. Hu Yinggu refuses to empty the grain stores, keeping 100 personal guards around the two warehouse positions. He sends 300 white wolf guards into the forest instead, ordering shield formations and wolves to sweep for the archer. More handlers are told to recover the loose animals, while every surviving unit receives one simple command: kill on sight. From cover, Wongqing realizes Hu Yinggu has already recognized the diversion without knowing who created it. That makes the general more dangerous than any brute who could be baited into abandoning the true objective. Wongqing also senses that Hu Yinggu stands in the tendon-changing realm, far above his own current physical level. A direct shot at that distance would have to cross bodyguards, armor, wind, and too much open ground. Missing would reveal Wongqing's exact position and end the raid before his allies ever reach the warehouses. So he lowers the bow and accepts the harder solution: make the forest hunt expensive enough to force more troops outward. Bone whistles suddenly scream behind him, and green eyes begin appearing between dark trunks across the snowy tree line. More than a dozen armored wolves are already following his scent, while torch-bearing search teams advance behind them. Wongqing looks once toward the grain stores and sees they are still protected too heavily for Hititu's squad. The only way to open that center is to let the wolves keep finding him and punish everyone who follows. 3 heavy arrows settle between his fingers as the lead animals lower their bodies and prepare to explode forward. Wongqing releases as the pack charges, turning the enemy's tracking advantage into the first phase of his own ambush. One arrow pierces an eye and drops the leading wolf so hard its body carves a trench through the snow. A second shaft finds the gap between armor plates on another wolf's neck and tears through before the beast can turn. The third arrow ignores the animals and hits the handler behind them, while his bone whistle is already between his lips. With their controller dead, the surviving wolves do not retreat. The smell of fresh blood only makes them more aggressive. Wongqing refuses to stand inside their circle and instead retreats low through brush, using the movement pattern of Loach technique. Wolves can still follow his smell, while the soldiers behind them advance carefully enough to block the easiest escape lanes. He recognizes the tactic immediately. Locate. Disciplined men compress. And shields prevent the archer from breaking out cleanly. Straight running would lose against trained animals in deep snow, so Wongqing reaches for the dried rhino meat in his pouch. He slices his palm just enough to wet several pieces, then throws the bloody meat into 3 different directions. Snow, pine needles, and mud are rubbed over his boots and injured palm to weaken the clean trail he leaves. The trick cannot fool the wolves for long, but Wongqing needs minutes rather than complete disappearance. When the pack reaches the fork, fresh blood pulls several animals away from the fading scent of their real target. Wongqing uses the separation instantly, shooting the base of a snow-loaded branch above one investigating wolf. Ice and packed powder crash down, trapping the animal long enough for his next arrow to finish it through the ear. A soldier following another false trail catches a crude snare and falls face first near a buried vine. Wongqing's arrow hits from darkness before the man can regain his feet. Then the archer changes position again. Torches rush toward that shot, but Wongqing is already several trees away and watching the response from another angle. His rule is simple. Reveal himself for one useful shot. Relocate immediately. And never get greedy for a second. Hunter instincts read terrain. Military experience reads formations. And Loach technique keeps his body slipping through narrow ground. The enemy can track his general direction. But every attempt to pin that direction down turns into another wasted chase. A 10-man squad eventually is in tight formation with shields forward. Spears centered. Archers behind. And handlers protected. Instead of attacking the shield faces, Wongqing hangs torn cloth on a branch and deliberately lets one soldier notice movement. Enemy arrows shred the decoy bush. He circles toward their exposed side without firing a single unnecessary shot. His first real arrow strikes an ankle below the lead shield, forcing the defender's protection downward. The second punches through an archer's hand during full draw, sending that man's own shot into another soldier. Formation discipline starts breaking, and Wongqing takes the next opening to disable a spearman through the knee. His fourth arrow removes the wolf handler, leaving the nearby animal without the whistle pattern controlling its target. The uncontrolled wolf lunges toward the nearest strong blood scent and clamps onto its own wounded shield bearer. Their squad leader swings wide to stop the beast, exposing the gap beneath his raised arm. Wongqing's fifth arrow drives into that opening, ending the command structure before the remaining soldiers understand what happened. He leaves the survivors rather than spending ammunition on men who can no longer threaten the wider plan. New torch groups are already approaching, and each wasted arrow would shorten the time he can keep Hu Yinggu occupied. Proficiency notifications register through his panel as wolves and elite soldiers fall, confirming the battle is still advancing his skills. Wongqing barely looks at the numbers because his second quiver is dropping much faster than the growing total. The heavy bow demands enormous physical effort on every draw, and even his trained tendons are beginning to burn. He checks the grain camp again and sees Hu Yinggu still refusing to commit the defenders. Wongqing actually needs moved. Killing another scattered squad will not be enough, so he shifts toward terrain that can hurt several pursuers at once. A narrow ravine offers steep walls. Snow. Loose deadfall. And exactly the kind of bottleneck an archer can exploit. Wongqing throws another bloodbait into the center and waits behind a boulder while wolves enter before their handlers. The soldiers follow more cautiously, shields high and eyes searching ridges after learning how often the archer attacks from elevation. He lets the formation enter fully before shooting a dead tree packed beneath unstable snow on the slope. The cracks, dumping ice and powder down onto the squad and forcing every shield upward against falling debris. That defensive reaction creates the opening Wongqing wanted, and 3 rapid arrows cut through the uncovered side gaps. One soldier loses a thigh, another loses control of his weapon hand, and a third drops before the formation recovers. 2 wolves charge uphill, but Wongqing rolls down the opposite slope instead of trying to trade arrows at close range. One animal breaks through hidden rocks and becomes trapped while the second launches over his sliding body. Wongqing uses the knife rather than a precious arrow, cutting upward through an armor gap as the wolf passes. Its falling weight clips his shoulder and throws him into a tree, hard enough to flare pain through his chest. Rather than freeze from the impact, he uses the rebound to keep tumbling down the slope and break the soldier's sightline. Several white wolf guards abandon formation to chase, exactly the mistake Wongqing has been waiting for. The first cannot clear a low fallen log and takes a knife strike before his body can climb across. A second soldier's curved sword crashes into Wongqing's blade, sending force through his already exhausted arm. Iron rhino conditioning keeps his grip from failing, and Loach technique lets him slide backward instead of absorbing everything directly. When the enemy oversteps after the missed swing, Wongqing raises the bow almost point blank and releases. The heavy arrow punches through the man's chest and throws him backward, buying just enough room to continue moving. Blood reaches Wongqing's mouth from the earlier collision, but the forest behind him now carries more screams than organized commands. Through a break in the trees, he finally sees another armored group, leaving the grain warehouses to reinforce the hunt. Hu Yinggu has started thinning the personal guard, proving the painful forest strategy is moving the real objective. The enemy responds by bringing out a specialized anti-archer formation, instead of feeding more scattered squads into traps. Tall rattan shields wrapped in wet hide form a moving wall that ordinary heavy arrows cannot simply punch through. Knight's elite soldiers march behind them while two beast-skinned shamans control the remaining wolves with woven whistle patterns. The wolves spread across both flanks, preventing an easy side escape while the shield wall advances without rushing. Wongqing tests the center with a heavy arrow and only drives the shield bearer backward half a step. Spiral penetration cracks another shield edge, yet the shaft still fails to reach the protected soldier behind it. He tries shooting a wolf instead, but the whistle pattern changes, and the trained animal actually dodges before impact. A shot toward one shaman is also stopped when a dedicated defender raises another rattan shield over the controller. The formation was built specifically to smother bowmen, and every piece is doing exactly the job intended. Wongqing counts shrinking space instead of panicking. Shields ahead. Wolves on both sides. Torches behind. Steep slope at his back. The net is dangerous, but every soldier standing here is one less soldier between he, Titu, and the grain stores. Wongqing suddenly fires away from the main shield wall and hits a separate flanking squad visible through reflected torchlight. Screams from the darkness force the rattan formation to hesitate for one heartbeat while officers reassess the unseen angle. He throws himself sideways down the slope during that pause, sliding beneath a wolf that launches after him. A short knife enters through the beast's belly armor while its body passes overhead and crashes downslope. Wongqing hits another tree hard, rolls into deeper cover, and hears the shield formation finally break into a faster pursuit. More horns sound from the camp, followed by another group leaving the grain warehouses to reinforce the widening forest search. Hu Yinggu is still not fully committed, but the defensive center is now thinner than it was when the hunt began. On the southwest slope, Titu watches those troop movements with 50 men crouched behind him in complete silence. Their oil jars, axes, and blades are ready. But moving early would waste everything Wongqing is buying. Another scream rises from the trees, then another wolf howl cuts off, and one more enemy squad disappears into the forest. Titu keeps his hand raised until the armored guards around the grain stores finally fall below the threshold they planned. Deep among the trees, Wongqing leans against a boulder with a lighter quiver and shoulders burning from repeated heavy draws. The enemy shield wall approaches again, tighter now, with no obvious gap for a direct shot through the front. Rather than waste ammunition proving the shields are strong, he studies the ground beneath the men controlling the wolves. One shaman stands on frozen rock above the slope, protected from arrows but not protected from losing his footing. Wongqing aims at the cracked ledge beneath him and sends spiral force into stone instead of flesh. Frozen rock splits, the shaman lurches forward, and his dedicated shield bearer moves automatically to keep protecting him. That protective movement tilts the formation just enough for Wongqing's second arrow to thread through the opening. The shaman falls down the slope and his whistle stops, immediately breaking the timing of several nearby wolves. Two animals rush early without the rhythm, holding them back, and crash into a hidden field of unstable rocks. Wongqing squeezes from the far side, while the man-sized rattan shields struggle to descend the near-vertical ground. The formation finally loses shape, forcing Hu Yinggu to choose between preserving his camp defenses and ending the archer now. He chooses the hunt, sending 200 additional white wolf guards and pulling still more defenders from the warehouses. Only a skeleton force remains around parts of the grain depot, while supply workers are ordered to fill visible gaps. Those replacements are bodies rather than true guards, and Titu sees the difference immediately from his waiting slope. The commander's raised hand drops and 50 Dasha soldiers begin moving toward the exposed southwest approach without a cheer. Their first team carries iron hooks and hand axes for barriers, while the second group protects sealed jars of fire oil. A third group stays behind with blades and crossbows, already knowing their purpose may be to buy everyone else time. The first barricade falls quietly as ropes snap, wooden stakes are dragged aside, and a guard takes a bolt before shouting. Titu slips through the opening, glances once toward the screaming forest, and trusts Wongqing to keep the main force occupied. Wongqing is still alive, but Hu Yinggu's reinforcements make success increasingly expensive with every passing minute. Torches now move through the trees in layers, wolves sweep wider, and disciplined squads begin closing routes Wongqing used earlier. His tricks must therefore change instead of repeating the same bloodbait decoy bush and single-angle ambushes. He shifts towards steeper rock where heavy shields become liabilities and starts using terrain to attack movement rather than armor. A pursuing squad climbs too tightly beneath loaded branches, letting one arrow create falling snow that separates front from rear. Wongqing shoots only the isolated men who matter to the chase, leaving protected bodies untouched when the angle offers no value. Every saved arrow extends the diversion, and every delayed squad gives Hititu's raiders more seconds inside the camp. Below the grain warehouses, those seconds become distance as soldiers carry oil past fences and split toward assigned targets. The raiders do not search for glory or enemy officers. They are here to destroy food fodder, and transport capacity. Hititu directs one group toward the grass stores because burning animal feed can cripple the barbarians even if grain survives. Another team pushes for the eastern warehouse, while the central group fights to keep a lane open between both attacks. The first fire oil jar shatters across dry material, and a spark turns one corner of the depot into rising orange flame. Barbarian guards finally understand the true attack and stop chasing confusion long enough to rush the burning area. Hititu meets them directly because letting organized defenders reach the oil carriers would end the mission in minutes. A wolf-tattooed enemy leader blocks him with disciplined sword work, refusing to chase a quick kill while holding the route closed. The barbarian's goal is pressure rather than spectacle, forcing Hititu to spend strength just to keep the fire teams moving. Around them, Dasha soldiers smash oil into timber and grain, while others take arrows protecting the men carrying flame forward. The fodder yard starts burning, then loses intensity when enemy soldiers throw snow and wet hides across the fire. Hititu shouts for his men to keep the yard alive, because starving pack animals can cripple the whole supply chain. Far above the fight, Wongqing finally works back toward a shooting angle, overlooking the camp through smoke and snow. He sees the raid underway and immediately changes roles from diversion to covering fire without trying to command men below. His first arrows target the soldiers smothering flames rather than the strongest warriors protecting the warehouse doors. One man carrying packed snowdrops with a shaft through his neck and falls onto an unbroken jar of oil. The jar cracks, spreading black fuel across dry grass until the fading fire roars back with sudden force. Another defender running for water loses a knee, and the bucket line starts breaking before it ever becomes organized. Wongqing disables the squad leader trying to rebuild that line, removing the only voice turning individuals into coordinated resistance. The fodder yard finally catches properly. Feeding on grass. Wooden sheds hides. And oil despite the continuing blizzard. Firelight opens a fraction in Hititu's duel, and the wolf tattoo leader's attention shifts for less than a heartbeat. Hititu steps into that mistake, driving a rising slash through a gap in the man's chest armor. The wounded leader staggers, and Hititu follows with two more decisive strikes before the defender can recover balance. With that blockade gone, he orders surviving raiders toward the eastern stores, instead of stopping to celebrate the victory. Fewer than half of the original 50 are still moving freely, yet the mission remains unfinished while warehouses stand. A young soldier takes a terrible wound but uses his remaining strength to throw an oil jar into the hottest flames. Another loses a leg, crawls towards stored grain with the jar ahead of him, and refuses to release it after being speared. His comrade lights the oil where he falls, turning the sacrifice into the next section of spreading fire. Wongqing keeps shooting anyone who blocks those advances, choosing function over dramatic targets as his ammunition continues shrinking. He breaks alarm attempts, disables men carrying water, and protects oil runners whenever a clean line appears through smoke. The raid is succeeding by inches, and almost every inch is being bought with men who know they may not return. Then Wongqing hears heavier organized movement from the forest and recognizes the rhythm of controlled wolves coming back toward camp. A long stream of torches begins flowing from the trees, as Hu Yinggu finally realizes the grain depot is the real battlefield. The main white wolf guard force turns around, bringing the same disciplined hunters. Wongqing spent the night pulling away. Hititu's men have one warehouse burning, and the fodder yard aflames, but other storage still stands inside the returning net. If Hu Yinggu reaches the center before those fires spread, the raid becomes only a costly half success. Wongqing checks his quiver and finds only a handful of heavy arrows after hours of fighting and constant relocation. His shoulders ache, wounds are open, and every full draw now demands strength his body is running out of. It's below, an unlit oil jar lies in snow near the eastern warehouse, only a short distance from established flame. A dead Dasha soldier has already carried it almost far enough, leaving the final distance for someone still alive to solve. Hu Yinggu reaches the gate through smoke, spots Wongqing on the slope, and immediately points the main response toward him. White wolf guards break away from the returning column, while Wongqing ignores them and keeps his eyes on the oil jar. He draws through screaming muscles, not for a person but for the object capable of turning unfinished destruction into real loss. The arrow flies into firelight as the pursuing squad closes, and Wongqing abandons the slope before confirming anything unnecessary. Behind him, flames continue climbing across the depot while he enters the forest, with almost every usable resource exhausted. His left arm is torn by wolf bites, his shoulder is bleeding, and a wound near his waist pulses with every step. A glancing blow from Hu Yinggu has also left his chest burning, making deep breaths feel like inhaling against hot iron. Wongqing cannot afford to admire the burning camp, because the man who destroyed it is now the easiest scent in the forest. His arrows are gone, his knife is missing, and the only weapons left are a steel bow and iron chain. 5 minutes earlier he controlled distance like a sniper. Now the same archer is reduced to using a wolf collar as weapon. Blood is the immediate problem, so he packs Snopes against the worst wounds despite the pain, and slows what he can. Bone whistles cut through the wind again, confirming Hu Yinggu's hunters have already reorganized behind him. Straight line escape would only give the wolves an easy trail, so Wongqing builds one more crude trap instead of sprinting. He ties a bloody strip of sleeve to the chain and throws it toward a bush to create a false scent. The remaining chain loops around a tree, while his heavy bow bends a snow-loaded branch like an improvised spring. An armored wolf follows the blood rag first, with 2 shielded soldiers moving cautiously behind after learning from earlier losses. When the animal realizes there is no human in the bush, Wongqing releases the bent branch above it. Packed snow blinds the wolf for a heartbeat, enough for him to wrap the chain around its neck and use the tree. He does not try to overpower the beast directly because its raw strength is far beyond what his damaged arms can hold. Bracing against the trunk turns leverage into the missing strength, while the wolf claws trenches through the snow. Wongqing swings the steel bow into its head repeatedly, using metal weight where no arrows remain to do the work. The fight is ugly rather than elegant, but elegance has no value when survival is the only measurable result. One pursuing soldier steps over hidden chain and loses balance as Wongqing attacks from it with both hands on the bow. The metal frame dents his helmet and drops him face first, but the second soldier is already bringing down a curved blade. Wongqing steals a short knife from the fallen man while rolling away from the next strike through deep snow. The borrowed weapon gives him at least one cutting edge again, though it does nothing to solve his exhausted body. A pressure colder than the storm suddenly hits his instincts, and Wongqing throws the bow upward without seeing the attacker. Hu Yinggu's massive curved sword crashes into the steel frame and launches Wongqing backward through dead branches. The general from the blizzard wearing black armor and a white wolf king, pelt stained by the burning camp. He looks from his damaged wolf to the fallen guard, then studies the young archer whose raid caused the disaster. Wongqing uses humor to hide weakness, but Hu Yinggu's attention is on the blood energy revealed by their close exchange. The general realizes his enemy is only at peak skin tempering, rather than the tendon-changing realm he expected. That discovery makes Wongqing more dangerous in Hu Yinggu's eyes, because surviving tonight would leave enormous room for future growth. Hu Yinggu raises his sword with new certainty, deciding the young archer cannot be allowed to leave this forest alive. Hu Yinggu does not charge blindly, and that restraint ruins the easiest counterattack Wongqing could have hoped to create. He spreads bodyguards across the front, pushes wolves toward both flanks, and keeps handlers safely behind the pressure line. The general himself holds the center, turning the pursuit into a slow closing wall with almost no obvious gap. Wongqing understands the math immediately. Wounded skin tempering against fresh tendon changing is not bravery, it is suicide. He turns and runs toward low forest, where black smoke from the burning grain depot is rolling across the ground. Smoke destroys visibility, weakens scent, and forces the wolves to search with far less certainty than before. It also fills Wongqing's lungs with heat and soot, but coughing is still preferable to being cut apart. One wolf charges through the haze before the soldiers, trusting smell more than sight as it closes on him. Wongqing lies behind a tree, hears the claws scrape frozen snow, and snaps the iron chain across its front legs. The beast crashes forward, giving him time to drive the stolen knife into the gap between its neck armor. He strikes the knife handle with his steel bow to force the blade deeper before yanking it free. A violent crack follows, and the tree protecting him splits apart beneath one swing from Hu Yinggu. The general is reading sound, breathing, movement, and battlefield instinct well enough that smoke barely slows him. Wongqing can fool wolves and ordinary soldiers, but every trick against Hu Yinggu seems to buy only seconds. He keeps moving through the black haze, while the general's blade cuts close enough to tear open his padded armor. One strike slices from shoulder toward waist without reaching flesh, leaving freezing air pouring through the ruined coat. Wongqing tries provoking him into reckless anger, but Hu Yinggu refuses to answer and keeps attacking with disciplined precision. An enemy who will not waste motion is far more dangerous than one whose pride can be manipulated. Elsewhere, He-Titu is already leading the surviving raiders away from the burning depot through the southwest escape route. Their mission succeeded, but the cost is savage. More than half the 50 men have already fallen around the warehouses. The survivors are burned, cut, pierced, or carrying wounded comrades while smoke follows them into the snow. One soldier asks whether they should turn back for Wongqing, knowing the archer deliberately pulled Hu Yinggu away. He-Titu refuses, because a wounded group clanking through the forest would destroy Wongqing's only remaining advantage. Someone must also carry confirmation of the destroyed grain stores back to Juma Pass, or every death becomes strategically useless. He too tells them that Wongqing has a better chance alone, even though his face shows how little certainty he feels. The raiders continue retreating, but white wolf guards begin cutting into the rear of their battered column. A young soldier with a ruined leg realizes he cannot keep pace and stops before the others can carry him. He orders them not to look back, lights the remaining oil on his own clothing, and tackles two pursuers. The explosion buys another narrow stretch of distance, while He-Titu forces the survivors forward through the snow. An older veteran later pushes a wounded comrade into He-Titu's arms and reveals blood-soaked cloth around his own waist. He has been running with a fatal wound hidden beneath his clothing, because stopping earlier slowed everyone. The veteran turns back alone and holds a narrow slope for the few seconds his remaining strength allows. Those seconds are enough for the shrinking group to widen the gap before the white wolf guards cut him down. He-Titu keeps moving, because honoring those sacrifices now means surviving long enough to report what they achieved. Back in the smoke, Wongqing cannot know how many raiders remain, so he keeps dragging Hu Yinggu farther from their route. He reaches a steep slope where an old frost-split pine hangs partly uprooted beneath a heavy cap of snow. It is not enough for a true avalanche, but falling timber and packed snow could still break the pursuit formation. Hu Yinggu notices the unstable tree immediately and refuses to step directly beneath the obvious danger. His bodyguards and wolves, however, have already pushed closer to the slope while trying to keep Wongqing trapped. Wongqing wedges the stolen knife into the damaged roots, then loops chain around the split wood and a rock. The improvised leverage system is ugly, but he needs only one violent pull at the right moment. He smashes the steel bow against the tightened chain, and the already damaged root mass finally tears free. Half the pine comes down with packed snow, dead branches, and frozen debris across the narrow space below. Bodyguards lose their feet. One wolf disappears under timber, and the pressure line vanishes inside a churning white collapse. Hu Yinggu reacts fastest, retreating and cutting through falling debris before it can bury him with the others. The collapse does not injure the general, but it steals the single heartbeat Wongqing needs to break contact. He disappears into a ravine while Hu Yinggu's furious shout identifies him only as the Dasha archer. Wongqing actually values that small uncertainty, because an enemy who lacks his name still lacks one useful piece of intelligence. His quiver is empty, blood energy nearly drained, and one leg is beginning to fail beneath accumulated damage. Yet the burning camp is farther behind him now. No body has been left for Hu Yinggu to claim. The general stands above the broken slope and understands the archer escaped rather than died beneath the snow. He promised himself he will remember the Dasha archer, turning a single failed pursuit into a personal military threat. Wongqing limps deeper into the storm using the steel bow as a crutch, because normal walking is already beyond him. His left arm is chewed open. Both hands are split. His shoulder wound has reopened. And breathing tastes like iron. The stolen knife keeps stabbing his hip through the belt because he has no sheath and no spare gear left. Even speaking costs energy now. He stops wasting breath on jokes and concentrates on remaining upright. Wolf howls grow weaker behind him, but the blood from his injuries still paints a trail any trained animal can follow. He packs more frozen snow against wounds and smears blood onto a broken branch before throwing it into another ravine. Crossing exposed rocks lets him erase some footprints, though every step sends fresh pain through his damaged chest and leg. The blizzard hides the stars, leaving only terrain slope and the distant glow of the burning depot for orientation. Heavy, uneven footsteps suddenly appear ahead, forcing Wongqing behind a tree with the stolen knife ready. A large injured figure emerges leaning on a battered sword, half burned and covered in blood. Wongqing recognizes He-Titu only after studying the damaged armor, blackened face and missing helmet through the snow. He-Titu reacts on instinct and swings before Wongqing identifies himself from behind the tree. Recognition replaces suspicion with disbelief because each man had assumed the other was probably already dead. Wongqing warns him to lower his voice before the Barbarians turn that temporary survival into a very short reunion. He-Titu finally collapses against a trunk, and Wongqing asks the question both men already know will hurt. Of the original raiders, He-Titu says, almost everyone is gone after the burning and the retreat. More than half died inside the depot, while several survivors stayed behind one by one to slow the chase. The answer lands harder than any injury, because Wongqing understands exactly what those men purchased with their deaths. He-Titu still carries one blood-frozen military tag from Shaoxian, a 17-year-old soldier who fell covering retreat. He remembers how the boy always claimed to eat little while constantly appearing first whenever extra food was served. Wongqing asks whether He-Titu remembers the other names and the specific places each man fought. He-Titu says he remembers the warehouse charge, the oil carriers, the rear guard, and the men who fell last. Wongqing tells him that memory is now another reason he is not allowed to die in this snow. If He-Titu falls here, 48 men risk being reduced to one anonymous line about a destroyed suicide squad. He-Titu presses the tag against his chest and promises he will crawl back to Juma Pass if necessary. Their exhausted conversation keeps both men mentally awake, because lying down in the cold could become permanent sleep. They begin moving together, one leaning on a sword and the other on a bow, with neither capable of helping much. The pair look less like returning warriors than survivors who have already spent every reserve their bodies were supposed to possess. A bone whistle suddenly cuts through the snow behind them, followed by one wolf and several white wolf guards. He-Titu asks how many, and Wongqing estimates enough enemies to kill 2 wounded men easily in open ground. A narrow mountain path ahead offers the only useful advantage, barely wide enough for 2 men side by side. Wongqing chooses it instantly because a choke point can turn enemy numbers into a line instead of a surrounding circle. He has no arrows left, so the entire plan must be built around the iron chain and He-Titu's remaining swings. Wongqing buries the chain under snow across the path and anchors one side around a jutting rock. He-Titu estimates he has only a few full-strength sword strikes left before his injuries make his arm useless. That means each attack must solve a specific problem, because neither man has energy for a prolonged exchange. The armored snow wolf reaches them first, charging directly down the narrow path toward the smell of Wongqing's blood. They wait without moving until the beast launches. Then Wongqing yanks the chain across its chest and legs. Its momentum carries the wolf sideways into the rock wall, destroying its clean landing and exposing a shoulder armor gap. He-Titu spends his first serious cut there, opening flesh while the animal thrashes against stone and chain. Wongqing drives the stolen knife through the side of its jaw, and He-Titu follows with another strike to the neck. The dead armored body now lies across the narrow trail, becoming a barricade the pursuing soldiers must climb. The first white wolf guard approaches carefully behind a shield instead of rushing in anger over the fallen animal. His caution frustrates Wongqing because disciplined enemies are always harder to exploit than emotional ones. The soldier's foot catches the buried chain, and Wongqing pulls just enough to destroy his balance. He-Titu hits the raised shield rather than flesh, but the impact opens space for Wongqing to reach the knee. The knife drops the man lower, T2 uses the exposed neck gap to finish the exchange efficiently. A second enemy sees the trick, attacks the chain first, and immediately sends a curved sword toward Wongqing's face. Wongqing blocks with the steel bow, feeling the impact rattle through injuries that are already barely holding together. T2 strikes the back of the enemy blade, knocking its path aside instead of wasting strength on armor. Wongqing crashes into the soldier's body and drives his borrowed knife upward beneath the ribs through a protection gap. The enemy kicks him away, but the wound and bodies clogging the path finally convince the remaining pursuers to regroup. Wongqing recognizes the pause as their last chance and orders T2 to move before another flanking route is found. They abandon the choke point while the White Wolf guards search for a way around the dead wolf and narrow stones. Every step toward Juma Pass becomes slower, but the enemy noises eventually begin fading behind the storm. The pair finally see familiar watchfires through snow, though neither has enough strength left for relief to feel simple. Guards at the outer approach first raise weapons because the two blood-covered figures barely resemble Dasha soldiers. Recognition spreads quickly when Wongqing gives his name and T2 produces the military tag still frozen in his hand. They report the essential fact before anything else. The Barbarian grain depot burned and the mission was completed. Wongqing then adds that the military merit must be recorded correctly, refusing to let accounting disappear beneath emotion. T2 glares at him through exhaustion, but the practical demand carries more meaning than it first sounds. 48 men died making that result possible. So their contribution, families and death payments, must enter the record. Wongqing's body finally gives out after the report, and two soldiers catch him before he hits the frozen ground. His breathing is shallow, armor shredded, face covered with soot, and left arm crusted beneath frozen blood. Medics are called immediately while the night returns signal sounds from the watchtower across the fortress. Soldiers rush from different sections and stop when they notice the northern horizon glowing red through the blizzard. Even from Juma Pass, the Barbarian depot burns brightly enough to stain the low clouds above the snow. The sight confirms what two nearly dead men just reported more clearly than any officer could have explained. T2 refuses treatment for another moment and asks for the squad roster before allowing anyone to carry him away. A clerk arrives with charcoal and the register containing all 50 names recorded before the mission began. T2 starts with Xiao Xian, explaining that the 17-year-old covered retreat after taking an arrow. Then he goes name by name through the men who carried oil, stores, attacked warehouses, and died buying seconds. These were not legendary heroes in camp. Many complained, gambled, fought over food, and exaggerated old stories. Yet inside the burning depot, those ordinary soldiers kept moving when retreat would have been easier and safer. The clerk writes, stiffen from cold, understanding that the page is becoming the final trace of many lives. T2 refuses to skip anyone because each missing detail could change merit, payments delivered to a dead soldier's family. By the last name, he can barely remain upright, but the entire raid has been transformed from anonymous loss into recorded sacrifice. News spreads through the fortress before sunrise. Reaching the Marksmen camp, office, staff, and damaged wall crews. Old Hay wakes to the report and immediately asks whether Wongqing actually returned from the impossible diversion. Learning that the young archer is unconscious, but breathing releases tension he had hidden behind his usual jokes. The one-eyed officer orders guards around the medical tent, so merit clerks cannot disturb Wongqing the moment he wakes. When Old Hay teases him for caring, the officer threatens to demonstrate that concern in a much less comfortable way. More importantly, the destroyed grain depot forces the Barbarians to stop heavy attacks for several precious days. Juma Pass can use that breathing room to repair crossbow carts, reorganize arrows, treat wounded, and rebuild damaged positions. Time is the real strategic reward, and 48 dead raiders purchased it with a mission nobody expected to survive. At the merit office, clerks open Wongqing's file and realize this success will push his available points much higher. The same young archer who counts small rewards carefully has now earned enough for the movement technique he wanted. That technique matters because the forest chase proved one truth clearly. Surviving Hu Yinggu required more speed than Wongqing possessed. When Wongqing wakes, pain arrives before memory, followed by the smell of medicine and the weight of heavy bandages. He lies nearby in equally poor condition, still holding Xiao Xian's tag even while trying to rest. The old military doctor makes both men drink bitter medicine and refuses every attempt to treat recovery like optional inconvenience. Wongqing accepts the bowl because faster healing means earlier training, and that calculation needs no heroic philosophy. Merit clerks eventually arrive with the finalized record, confirming the raid, the burned stores, and the approved rewards. He receives the recognition needed for promotion, while Wongqing finally has enough merit to exchange for treading snow without trace. The reward does not erase the dead, and neither survivor treats the ledger as proof that the price was small. He keeps checking names and family payments, while Wongqing watches the technique he wanted become a practical survival necessity. For several days, the doctor forbids real training because wolf bites, chest bruising, torn palms, and reopened cuts still need closure. Wongqing does not argue after learning how quickly damaged muscles can become permanent weakness if he forces them too early. On the 5th day, he is finally allowed to walk around camp, though practice remains completely forbidden. His first destination is not the training ground but the armory, where military merit can be exchanged for techniques. The fortress already feels different because the northern pressure has eased enough for repairs to happen without constant interruption. Damaged crossbow carts roll down from the walls, broken shields are stacked for craftsmen, and arrow supplies are counted again. Food remains limited, and the garrison is still hurt, but the destroyed barbarian grain stores created room to breathe. Wongqing reaches the armory with the one-eyed officer and old He, who stays unusually quiet through the exchange. He chooses treading snow without trace because the retreat from Hu Yinggu exposed the gap that almost killed him repeatedly. Archery can create distance only if the archer is fast enough to find, keep, and change that distance under pressure. The manual explains that lightness does not come from frantic speed, but from releasing force through each landing. One step should enter snow without sinking deeply, while the next should borrow balance without making the body stiff. Reading those instructions immediately takes Wongqing back to ravines, rocks, wolf claws, and every desperate escape from the previous night. Experience and luck kept him alive then, but neither is a reliable substitute for a movement method he can grind deliberately. His panel recognizes the manual and allows the technique to be added at beginner proficiency with 0 recorded progress. Starting from 0 does not bother Wongqing because a visible path can be climbed as long as he survives to practice it. The panel does not grant mastery for owning the book. Actual movement is still required before proficiency will rise. That limitation is exactly why Wongqing trusts it, since every point corresponds to something his body has really attempted. Other soldiers may worry about talent or weeks of invisible practice, while Wongqing worries about survival and usable training resources. The armory clerk warns that light body work punishes leg tendons and the waist, especially when existing injuries remain unhealed. Wongqing promises to study without physically practicing, and for once the doctor later confirms he appears to mean it. Back in the medical camp, he reads the manual repeatedly, without circulating strength or standing from the bed. He studies foot placement first, then force absorption, then the way blood energy should stay gathered without locking the legs. The panel remains unchanged because understanding words is not the same event as training the body. Wongqing still memorizes every sequence, planning to remove confusion before the day he is finally allowed to move. He sleeps nearby with the dead soldier's tag, while wounded men shift under blankets through the cold night. The quiet makes Wongqing's priorities simple: heal, learn the technique properly, and become harder for Hu Yinggu to catch next time. The barbarian commander still does not know his name, but an investigation after a burned granary will eventually uncover it. Once that happens, future hunting parties will be larger, more prepared, and much less likely to underestimate one young archer. Wongqing therefore treats recovery as preparation rather than inactivity, refusing to turn impatience into another injury. When the doctor finally permits light movement, he chooses a snow-covered training ground and begins with the smallest possible step. His foot lands too heavily at first, but a system correction nudges hip, knee, ankle, and weight distribution into better alignment. The panel records proficiency +1 only after the movement is physically attempted and corrected through his own body. That tiny increase is more useful than praise because it proves the manual has become something trainable instead of theoretical. Wongqing takes another step, this time loosening the hip sooner and letting the outer edge of the foot touch first. Another small gain appears, followed by more feedback when he repeats the movement and makes a new mistake. On the fourth attempt, his ankle slips, and his center of gravity drifts far enough that a real chase could punish it. The system correction pulls him back inward, and the stronger mistake produces another measurable addition after he stabilizes. Wongqing deliberately slows down rather than chasing points. Checking toes, heel, knee, hip. In the depth of every footprint. Early prints sink like any soldier's, but later, tracks become visibly shallower as his body wastes less downward force. The one-eyed officer watches from the edge of the ground for a long time before offering only 2 words of approval. He says it works, which means more to Wongqing than any dramatic compliment, because battlefield movement only needs practical results. By late morning, treading snow without trace is still below entry level, but its recorded proficiency has climbed substantially. The skill is not mastered, yet Wongqing can already see lighter tracks and feel corrections before his balance collapses. An urgent report interrupts the session from the northwest outpost before he can continue grinding. A Dacha patrol failed to return after taking the old forest road beyond the safer approaches to Juma Pass. One wounded soldier reached the checkpoint and reported a White Wolf Guard ambush built around capturing prisoners rather than killing everyone. The attackers used snow wolves and withdrew, with at least 1 Dacha soldier alive, creating an immediate intelligence threat. Wongqing understands why that matters, because the Barbarian grain loss makes information about Juma Pass more valuable than random casualties. Enemy commander need to know remaining food, arrows, wounded numbers, and whether reinforcements have arrived. A captured patrolman could reveal exactly how close the fortress is to breaking if the interrogation lasts long enough. Wongqing is assigned to a small rescue team with Old Hay, scout, archers, and close-range soldiers. Before leaving, he checks whether his recovering wounds can tolerate the bow and whether the movement technique can be used carefully. The answer is yes, but not freely. Every fight must still respect a body that has only recently left the medical cot. The team reaches the old forest road beneath low branches bent by snow and wind. A veteran scout finds drag marks and blood, showing the missing patrolman was moved, rather than killed at the ambush site. Boot prints and wolf tracks reveal an organized withdrawal, with animals controlled on both sides instead of running loose. Wongqing predicts the captors will avoid the main road because carrying a prisoner makes a direct chase easier to intercept. He points toward a northern slope where rough terrain offers concealment, while still leading back toward Barbarian positions. The scout agrees and the rescue team divides to create pressure from the road, while quieter men circle the side. Wongqing follows the slope route and uses treading snow without trace on real terrain for the first time. His foot spreads force more cleanly, leaving a shallower mark before the panel records another small proficiency gain. A second step lands on frozen rock hidden under snow and threatens to twist his ankle sideways. The system corrects his center of gravity in time, letting him shift without kicking loose stones that could reveal them. The scout notices the unusually quiet recovery, but says nothing because movement ahead immediately becomes more important. A low wolf sniff and a muffled human groan carry through brush beyond the next rise. Wongqing raises one hand and the entire team stops before crossing the final screen of branches. 6 White Wolf Guards are waiting with 1 armored snow wolf and a bound Dacha patrol soldier between them. 2 enemies carry short bows to protect the center with shields, and 1 wolf handler keeps a bone whistle ready. The prisoner's face is bloody, eye is cut, and his hands are tied. But he is still alive. Wongqing chooses the handler as the first target because a controlled wolf can ruin both rescue and retreat. He draws the iron core bow carefully, knowing the first arrow must solve the biggest coordination problem before surprise disappears. The heavy shaft hits before the bone whistle can sound, breaking the enemy's ability to direct the snow wolf. The White Wolf Guards react quickly, lifting shields and searching angles while the 2 short bow archers prepare return fire. Wongqing glides sideways down the slope, using the unfinished movement technique instead of remaining behind the original cover. His body slides several feet with lighter contact, and the panel records more proficiency from a dodge that matters immediately. Two enemy arrows strike the place he occupied a moment earlier, proving the new skill already changes survival outcomes. Wongqing fires again during the slide, forcing one enemy away from the prisoner before the formation can close. Old Hay and the other Dasha soldiers attack from their planned directions, turning the Barbarians' attention across multiple threats. The captured patrolman rolls toward cover when an arrow disables the soldier who had been physically holding his bindings. Without a handler, the snow wolf charges on instinct and loses the coordinated timing that made it so dangerous. Shield soldiers from the rescue team meet the beast directly, while blades strike through openings created by its uncontrolled attack. Wongqing does not waste a heavy arrow finishing the wolf because his allies already have that problem contained. He turns instead toward the enemy archers, whose range can still punish anyone trying to carry the prisoner away. One short bow shot forces Wongqing to slide again, and treading snow without trace helps him borrow the slope without stopping. His answering arrow hits the enemy before a second shot can be completed, shifting range control back to the Dasha team. Another Barbarian tries closing with a knife, but Wongqing's new footwork saves half a step during the sudden approach. That half step is enough to avoid the blade and create room for a heavy arrow at close range. The remaining White Wolf guards recognize their handler, ARCHERY, and Wolf are gone and begin separating for escape. Dasha soldiers pursue only where useful, because the rescued man and the intelligence problem matter more than collecting bodies. They capture one wounded Barbarian instead of killing everyone, giving the a source for immediate questioning. Only after the area is checked for backup tracks and answering wolf calls do they cut the patrolman's bindings completely. His lips are purple from cold, his shoulder has been clawed, and the slashed leg barely supports any weight. Wongqing crouches in front of him and asks what information the White Wolf guards wanted before the rescue arrived. The answer confirms the worst possibility. Troop numbers. Food remaining. Totals. Crossbow damage arrow. Fire oil and rolling log. They also demanded shift changes, reinforcement status, and which sections of Juma Pass had suffered the greatest casualties. The rescued soldier says he refused to answer, though his expression shows he is afraid nobody will believe him. Wongqing accepts that surviving the beating without giving useful information is already more than enough proof for this moment. The captured White Wolf guard is searched for hidden blades and poison before the veteran scout begins questioning him. Short, precise interrogation reveals that the Barbarian strategy has shifted from frontal pressure toward cutting Juma Pass apart indirectly. Burned grain made direct assault harder. Prisoners, routes, patrol schedule, and military cargo have become their new targets. Wongqing returns toward the fortress knowing his next battles will be less about killing enemies and more about keeping Juma Pass supplied. The rescued patrolman is barely steady when Wongqing asks what the White Wolf guards wanted from him. The first question had been simple: how many soldiers still defended Juma Pass? Then they demanded how many days of grain remained inside the fortress. They wanted to know how many wounded soldiers filled the medical camp. Crossbow damage came next, especially the machines positioned along the west wall. The captors asked how many arrows the garrison could still distribute. Fire oil mattered because it could stop massed troops near the walls. Rolling logs mattered for the same reason during another frontal assault. They also asked whether any reinforcements had arrived recently. Another question focused on which wall section had suffered the most casualties. The White Wolf guards even wanted the timing of night shift changes. Every question points toward one objective: measure exactly how close Juma Pass is to breaking. The wounded patrolman says he gave them nothing despite the beating. His face tightens afterward, as if he expects Wongqing to doubt the claim. Wongqing refuses to interrogate a man his team just rescued. Coming back alive after capture is enough for the moment. The team turns instead toward the wounded Barbarian they captured during the rescue. An arrow through his leg prevents any realistic escape down the snowy slope. Veteran scouts search him before removing the gag from his mouth. Boots are checked first for flat blades or needles, hidden near the ankle. His belt wrist guards, armors, and braids are searched next. The scouts also check for poisoned bone chips, small enough to hide under clothing. Only after the search ends does the gag come away. One veteran speaks the Barbarian language and begins questioning him directly. He asks about unit size instead of wasting time with threats. Then he asks how many nearby teams can answer a whistle. The retreat route is identified, along with the direction of their closest support. The scouts demand the purpose of taking Dasha soldiers alive. The prisoner resists, but pain and isolation gradually strip away some confidence. Enough information comes out to confirm the patrol attack was deliberate intelligence gathering. The barbarians are not simply avenging the destroyed grain depot. They need to know what Juma Pass has left after weeks of siege. Their own food loss makes another blind assault more expensive than before. Good intelligence could reveal a weaker way to finish the same job. A prisoner may expose empty granaries that walls cannot hide. He may reveal broken siege engines that still look threatening from distance. He may identify a night rotation thin enough for infiltration. Wongqing sees the new war clearly. Cut useful pieces instead of smashing the whole fortress. The team checks nearby slopes before staying any longer. No answering wolf howl comes from the north. No fresh torchline appears through the trees. Wind is already softening tracks around the dead white wolf guards. Wongqing orders only useful enemy gear collected. Short bows are taken because Dasha scouts can study their range and construction. Bone whistles are taken because their signals may reveal wolf control methods. Knives, beast tendon rope, and military tags are gathered as well. Anything bulky or worthless stays in the snow. The rescued patrolman cannot place full weight on his injured leg. Two soldiers take his arms and support him between their shoulders. Another pair keeps the captured barbarian moving under close guard. Wongqing covers the slope side with his iron core bow ready. His unfinished footwork continues working even during the retreat. Loose snow forces his heel to stay lighter than usual. Buried stone punishes one careless landing with an instant balance correction. A slanted patch makes him spread force through hip and knee. The panel records progress only after his body performs the correction. Wongqing remembers the sensation without staring at the numbers. Enemy territory is not the place to celebrate a training notification. Juma Pass finally appears through snowfall beyond the old forest road. Gate guards recognize the rescue party before the wounded patrolman collapses. Medics take him directly toward the treatment tents. Scouts take custody of the captured white wolf guard. Wongqing goes to the one-eyed officer before cleaning his equipment. He reports every interrogation question in the order he heard them. The officer shows no reaction to troop numbers at first. His expression changes when Wongqing mentions damaged crossbow carts. Several west wall machines are genuinely unable to fire. The barbarians do not know which ones, but they are searching for confirmation. One carriage can return to service with a replacement winch. Another needs cord and fitted parts from the rear camp. Arrow crates there are also waiting to be moved forward. Spare axles, pin, and crossbow arms sit in the same depot. Losing those materials could turn temporary damage into permanent weakness. The one-eyed officer confirms a supply convoy is already planned. Delaying it leaves the west wall weaker for every passing day. Sending it carelessly could hand the barbarians exactly the target they want. Wongqing asks to join the escort after hearing the route. The officer first asks whether the old doctor actually cleared him for combat. Wongqing can draw the bow again without tearing the wolf bite open. His chest still aches under heavier strain, so the answer is not perfect. The officer warns that standing upright does not mean fully recovered. Wongqing accepts that warning without arguing for once. Old Hay hears about the mission and volunteers immediately. He claims somebody must stop Wongqing from turning another road into a disaster. 3 additional archers from the Marksmen camp join the escort. Shield soldiers will remain closest to the cart frames. Spearmen are assigned around the mules and narrow approaches. Veteran scouts move ahead where traps can be found before wheels reach them. Craftsmen must accompany the load because the hardware is specialized. Drivers receive combat instructions, even though they are not frontline fighters. Wongqing states the escort objective without any dramatic language. The carts must arrive with their critical cargo intact. Enemy bodies do not matter if the winch breaks a ditch. Personal merit does not matter if arrows never reach the wall. Nobody chases retreating attackers away from the route without a direct reason. If wolves threaten soldiers while hooks threaten axles, the axle takes priority. The route map shows one obvious danger zone ahead. A narrow gully squeezes the convoy between rising snow-covered slopes. Carts cannot turn around once. Several vehicles enter that channel. Its hidden short bow archers can shoot downward from either side. Its soft drifts can conceal pits rope. Its sharpened stakes. Its are waiting soldiers. The second cart will be the slowest because it carries the replacement winch. Its heavy iron axles add even more weight to that same vehicle. A single trapped wheel could stop the entire convoy behind it. Wongqing keeps that problem in mind during final preparations. That night he inspects the iron core bow under dim barracks light. The frame has blocked swords and struck armored wolves before. It survived smoke fall. Snow and being used as a crutch. Wongqing checks for bends where Hu Yinggu's blade struck metal. The grip wrapping is tightened before it can shift during a heavy draw. He examines the string for frozen wear and hidden fraying. Then 24 heavy arrows are placed in a clean row. Wongqing runs his fingers along every shaft. Arrowheads are tested for looseness at their bindings. Fletching is checked for dampness that might distort flight. A tiny crack under 300 pounds of draw weight could become a broken shot. Old Hay watches from the doorway and finally starts laughing. He says Wongqing treats arrows more carefully than most men treat their wives. Wongqing answers that barbarians never pause while an archer fetches replacements. Old Hay admits the logic is annoyingly difficult to challenge. Wongqing checks the quiver straps after the last passes inspection. Nothing can rattle against armor when the team needs silence. He opens his panel briefly before trying to sleep. Treading snow without trace is still below the formal entry threshold. Rescue work nevertheless pushed the proficiency upward through real terrain corrections. Wongqing does not add a late training session before the escort. Rested legs will matter more tomorrow than a few forced practice points. Hammering from the west wall wakes him before dawn. Craftsmen are already working on the damaged crossbow carts in freezing air. Every strike reminds him what the convoy is carrying toward those machines. Wongqing sits up and checks his gear by touch. The iron core bow is where he left it. The quiver still holds all 24 heavy arrows. He tests the straps one more time before standing. Old Hay is waiting outside with his own bow. He jokes that none of Wongqing's arrows escaped during the night. Wongqing ignores him and joins the other marksmen. None of the archers wear heavy armor. A slow turn can kill a bowman when a hidden short bow appears nearby. Padded layers and old leather provide enough protection without locking the waist. Wongqing needs that freedom for the snow footwork he has been practicing. The escort walks through the fortress toward the rear camp. They pass medical tents, where wounded men are beginning to return to duty. They pass repair yards stacked with broken shields and crossbow frames. Supply clerks are recounting arrows after the recent fighting. Juma Pass feels quieter than during the worst assaults. Nobody mistakes quieter for safe. Wongqing uses treading snow without trace during the ordinary walk. He lands on the outer edge of each foot instead of stamping downward. Knees stay loose so force can spread instead of stopping abruptly. The result is simple: shallower prints and slightly less wasted energy. Wongqing converts that saving into battlefield arithmetic. Less wasted energy may mean one more heavy bow draw later. The rear camp finally appears through gray snow fog. Red fire basins glow around workers loading military supplies. Mules snort beside carts while harness leather creaks in the cold. The first cart receives covered bundles of arrows. Workers protect the fletching from snow water beneath thick cloth. The second cart takes the large replacement winch. 2 heavy iron axles are secured beside it. Bundles of oxen cord and fitted hardware fill the remaining space. The smaller third cart carries wooden pins, iron nails, and repair parts. Craftsmen tighten every rope before the convoy moves. A loose axle could destroy other cargo during one violent jolt. Wongqing circles the second cart and studies the wheel positions. He asks the craftsman what damage would make the winch unusable. A bent axle could ruin its alignment. A cracked housing could make the whole mechanism worthless. A hard rollover could damage both without the enemy stealing anything. Wongqing passes that warning to the escort immediately. The barbarians may attack the cart itself, rather than the people around it. Drivers inspect wheel pins and harness buckles again. Shield soldiers choose positions beside the exposed cart corners. Spearmen stay close enough to defend the mule teams. Scouts leave first and disappear along the route. The carts begin moving after the forward signal returns. Wheels crunch slowly across packed snow beneath the heavy load. Wongqing covers the right slope from beside the second cart. Old Hay takes the opposite side. The remaining archers stagger front and rear, instead of clustering together. The first stretch contains only old wheel tracks and military traffic. Quiet lets the convoy establish rhythm before terrain becomes difficult. Wongqing grows more alert as the road begins narrowing. Dark stone shoulders rise through snow on both sides. Wind has shaped rough drifts along most of the approach. One patch on the left looks strangely smooth by comparison. Farther ahead, another drift hides something straight beneath the surface. Wongqing raises one hand before the first cart enters fully. Old Hay tells the drivers to shorten the reins without panicking the mules. Shield soldiers move forward and archers raise bows toward both ridges. A veteran scout probes the suspicious drift with a long pole. The pole strikes hard resistance where loose snow should continue deeper. Something wooden has been placed beneath the fresh covering. Before the scout uncovers it, a sharp bone whistle sounds from the right. Two white shapes burst from hidden snow nests above the road. Armored snow wolves charge directly toward the second cart. Their eyes are on the mules, not the nearest soldiers. Wongqing understands the purpose before either animal reaches the convoy. Panic the mules, twist the heavy cart, and let gravity damage the winch. He refuses the obvious shot at the first wolf. The whistle means someone more important is still controlling both beasts. Wongqing traces the sound toward a crooked dead tree on the right slope. Only the bottom edge of a fur cap is visible behind it. A sliver of jaw appears beneath the cover. The hidden man's throat moves as he prepares another signal. Wongqing lets his left knee bend and lowers his center of gravity. Treading snow without trace slides him slightly down the snowy edge. That movement opens a narrow line past the dead tree. His bow comes up during the slide instead of afterward. The handler raises the whistle toward his mouth again. Wongqing reaches full draw before the second signal can sound. The heavy arrow leaves the string without a shouted warning. It punches through the handler's throat behind the tree. The man's head snaps backward as the bone whistle falls away. His signal dies while both wolves are still mid-charge. The first beast loses the timing that should have guided its approach. Three dasha shields slam together across the road. The wolf crashes claws first into the overlapping protection. A spear drives through the shield gap toward its shoulder. The second wolf swings wider toward the mule's exposed flank. One escort archer tracks the turn from the rear position. His arrow enters through the animal's eye. The dying wolf tumbles sideways instead of reaching the harness. Its body slams into the wooden cart shaft. Blood sprays across the frame as the mule rears. The driver locks both hands around the reins. He does not jump clear even when hooves strike the snow beside him. Two shield soldiers brace their shoulders against the heavy cart. The frame rocks but does not immediately roll. The accompanying craftsman grabs a wooden wedge. He drops beside the rear wheel before the cart can slide farther. The wedge is hammered beneath the rim with both hands. Wongqing keeps one eye on the opposite slope during the chaos. The smooth snow patch there has still not moved. That stillness makes it more suspicious, not less. The wolf attack is too obvious to be the entire ambush. Wongqing shifts his feet without lowering the bow. Old Hay keeps watching the high right slope. Spearmen finish the wounded first wolf behind the shield wall. The mule begins responding to the driver's reins again. The craftsman pushes the wedge deeper under the wheel. Then the smooth snow on the left suddenly bulges upward. Three white wolf guards explode from snow-colored hides. One carries a curved blade for close fighting. Another already has a short bow in hand. The third holds a rope ending in heavy iron hooks. His eyes never settle on the nearest dasha soldier. He is looking directly at the second cart's axle. Wongqing sees the true second layer of the ambush. The wolves were only the opening. The barbarians intend to tip the winch cart itself. The hook carrier starts swinging his rope before the curved blade fighter even reaches the road. Wongqing ignores the swordsman and chooses the man who can destroy the mission fastest. His heavy arrow strikes during the forward swing and throws the hook carrier backward. The iron hook scrapes through snow several feet short of the axle. The curved blade fighter keeps charging downhill with both hands locked around his weapon. Shield soldiers turn from the cart and meet him before he reaches the driver. That defensive movement opens a shooting lane for the short bowman above. Old Hay notices the same gap and releases before the barbarian settles his aim. His arrow forces the short bowman behind cover, instead of letting him exploit the driver. Wongqing hears chopping farther ahead beneath the noise of wolves and shields. Another hidden team is working around the buried wooden obstacle across the gully. The barricade does not need to hold forever. It only needs to trap the convoy inside the prepared killing ground. Wongqing orders one craftsman and several spearmen forward under overlapping shields. They begin cutting ropes and dragging sharpened stakes toward the stone wall. Nobody chases the first attackers uphill. Even when one briefly exposes his back, the carts remain the objective, and every defender stays tied to that truth. The curved blade fighter slams into the shield line and tries forcing a gap beside the mule. A spearman attacks through the opening, while another shield keeps the cart corner protected. The barbarian retreats one step rather than dying for a position that no longer helps. Wongqing shifts lower along the road using shallow snow steps to preserve balance. His movement technique records another gain from the real correction. A short arrow flashes from the right ridge toward the front driver. One dasha shield snaps sideways and catches it before the reins are lost. Wongqing fires toward the exposed bow arm that created the shot. The enemy jerks back behind rock with blood marking the edge. Ahead, the buried barricade begins coming apart beneath axes and hooked hands. One support beam proves thicker than expected and holds the opening too narrow. The craftsman attacks that beam instead of asking the carts to risk squeezing through. Arrows strike the shields around him, while splinters fly from the frozen wood. Old hay keeps suppressing the upper slope, rather than wasting shots into stone. The support finally cracks and several soldiers drag the broken section aside. The first gap is wide enough for the lighter arrow cart. Old hay orders that cart forward before the enemy can rebuild pressure. The driver guides his mules through, while soldiers walk beside both wheels. One wheel catches a broken stake and makes the entire load jump. The arrow bundles stay secure beneath their coverings. The wheel straightens, and the first cart clears the narrow point. Everyone turns toward the second cart, because its winch makes the next passage harder. The nervous mule starts forward with wolf blood, still covering part of the shaft. The left wheel reaches soft snow beside the obstacle and suddenly drops. The heavy frame tilts toward the slope as the winch load shifts. The craftsman's face goes white when he sees how far the wheel sank. A hard sideways roll could bend the hardware they carried all this way. He throws a wooden board down beside the trapped wheel. Shield soldiers brace the upper side of the cart before he crawls closer. The driver holds the mule still instead of forcing it to drag harder. The craftsman pushes the board under the rim, using his shoulder and both hands. Enemy archers immediately recognize the stationary target below them. Their arrows shift from shield soldiers toward the men working beside the wheel. Wongqing returns fire at every exposed bow arm he can reach. One shooter loses his angle after a heavy shaft smashes into the rock beside him. Another briefly shows his shoulder and takes an arrow before disappearing from view. The wheel remains trapped because the winch presses the cart deeper into loose snow. Old hay shouts for everyone without a fixed defensive job to prepare to push. Wongqing keeps his bow raised for another moment instead of rushing toward the frame. Dropping range coverage too early would leave the kneeling craftsman completely exposed. A new short arrow suddenly appears from high on the right. Its line runs directly toward the back of the craftsman's neck. Wongqing cannot hit the hidden archer before the shot arrives. There is no shield close enough to cross the line in time. He changes targets and aims at the incoming arrow itself. The iron core bow releases with almost no conscious delay. Wongqing's heavy shaft meets the smaller missile in midair. Wood cracks against wood and the enemy arrow kicks sideways. It buzzes past the craftsman's ear and disappears into deep snow. The craftsman drops onto his backside from the shock. Then he grits his teeth and crawls straight back toward the trapped wheel. The hidden barbarian archer hesitates after seeing his shot intercepted. Old hay uses that heartbeat to fire toward the same rock. The enemy disappears fully behind cover, instead of risking another immediate shot. Wongqing finally slings his bow and moves to the cart. He does not try lifting the loaded frame alone. The winch and iron axles make the vehicle far too heavy for that kind of stupidity. Wongqing searches with his foot until he finds buried rock beneath the snow. That solid point gives his stance something useful to push against. He places one shoulder against the most axial section of the cart frame. The position keeps him away from the wheel, where the craftsman's hand is working. Iron Rhino body tempering tightens from the ground through his leg and waist. The force continues through his back into the shoulder, pressing the cart. An old chest bruise immediately flares beneath the heavy pressure. Wongqing bites down and holds the structure instead of jerking. Old Hay calls for everyone to push together. Shield soldiers, spearmen archers, and craftsmen drive their weight into the frame. The wheel moves only a fraction before the wooden board groans beneath it. The craftsman keeps the board aligned with fingers dangerously close to the rim. Nobody can stop now without letting the cart settle even deeper. Wongqing adds force gradually through the Iron Rhino stance. The mule pulls sideways for one moment and ruins part of the first effort. The driver corrects the reins and straightens the animal with the pushing line. Old Hay calls another coordinated drive before the enemy shooters recover. Boots slide across snow while the heavy frame creaks above their shoulders. Wongqing feels the bruise across his chest burn harder under the load. His stance holds and converts that strain into another real body tempering gain. The panel registers Iron Rhino proficiency +2. Wongqing ignores the number because the wheel is still buried. The first wooden board cracks loudly under the shifting rim. The craftsman shoves a second wedge into the opening before support collapses. Two shield soldiers lean harder against the upper cart side. Their bodies keep the frame from rolling toward the Ben man beside the wheel. Old Hay gives the next signal. Everyone drives forward at the same moment. The trapped wheel climbs 1 inch onto the reinforced board. Another push raises it enough to touch firmer ground. The cracked support gives way, just as the wheel reaches the harder edge. The cart jolts forward with enough force to throw several men off balance. The craftsman snatches his hand away before the broken board snaps beneath the rim. The driver keeps the mule moving so the wheel cannot fall back into the same hole. Wongqing steps away from the frame and reaches for his bow again. The second cart passes the chopped barricade with its winch still secured. The smaller third cart follows before the barbarians can create another obstruction. Only after every vehicle clears the bottleneck does the escort widen formation slightly. The attackers on the slopes do not launch a desperate final charge. Their purpose was destroying cargo, not dying after that objective failed. Wongqing checks his remaining heavy arrows while walking beside the second cart. Several shafts are gone, and old scars across his palm have opened again. Blood spots the grip before freezing in the cold air. His unfinished snow footwork has also been climbing throughout the ambush. Slides, dodges, and force borrowing turned the gully into real training. The panel adds more proficiency, but Wongqing keeps moving. They are not safe merely because the first killing zone is behind them. A scout resumes the lead and tests suspicious patches with a long pole. Shield soldiers enter each blind turn before the carts. Craftsmen inspect the heavy wheel and its bindings, while the convoy advances. The winch housing remains intact despite the dangerous tilt. Both replacement axles are still tied securely beside it. The left wheel shows strain, but can continue the route. Drivers settle the frightened mules without breaking formation. Old Hay staggers the archers again, so one slope cannot pin every bow. Wongqing stays near the heavy cart, while preserving enough lateral space to draw. The convoy crawls through the next section, rather than rushing after surviving the ambush. Every strange snow patch is treated as a possible trap until tested. One smooth drift hides nothing more than packed windblown powder. Another dark movement above proves to be snow sliding from a branch. Wongqing saves his arrow instead of turning caution into panic. Fresh tracks later cross the road and disappear toward broken rocks. The scouts confirm they belong to a small group moving away from the route. Nobody follows because the carts cannot chase and the mission cannot split. A distant short arrow strikes one shield without finding anyone behind it. Old Hay sends a reply toward the flash on the ridge. The hidden shooter retreats rather than exposing himself for another exchange. Scattered harassment continues, but no second coordinated assault develops. The barbarians seem more interested in slowing the convoy than trading lives now. Wongqing keeps the wheels moving so delay cannot create another prepared battlefield. The gully eventually opens into wider ground. Scouts fan farther ahead and find no large unit blocking the final approach. Juma Pass sentries become visible through the falling snow. The drivers increase pace only after receiving a clear friendly signal. The first arrow cart reaches protected ground and is surrounded by fresh soldiers. The heavy winch cart follows with wolf blood still dried across its shaft. The third cart enters last, carrying every smaller repair part it left with. Wongqing waits until the final wheel crosses before lowering his bow. The escort has wounded men and fewer arrows, but the cargo itself survived. A logistics clerk arrives almost immediately with the rear camp manifest. He begins by checking the sealed arrow bundles against the listed quantities. Then the replacement winch is inspected for cracks or bent fittings. Both iron axles are present and still straight. 6 bundles of oxen cord are counted next. Wooden pins, iron nails, and smaller components are checked crate by crate. Nothing important disappeared during the ambush or the slow retreat through the gully. The clerk writes one final note beneath the inventory. The final conclusion reads clearly, "Cargo not lost." Those words matter more than the number of barbarians killed on the route. Old Hay reads the entry and asks how much merit Wongqing expects from the escort. Wongqing says he does not know. Old Hay looks surprised because Wongqing normally counts rewards with almost painful precision. This time, Wongqing is watching craftsmen carry the new winch toward the west wall. The half-wrecked crossbow carriage is waiting there, with its old mechanism removed. Several workers haul the heavy replacement piece upward through snow. Wongqing says the real account will be settled when that machine kills barbarians later. Old Hay pauses before laughing at how much larger Wongqing's accounting has become. Wongqing does not laugh with him. His attention stays on the wall and the gray-white plain beyond it. The barbarian camp direction has been eerily quiet since the grain depot burned. Their heavy frontal assaults slowed because food and transport became harder to sustain. Their hands never stopped working against Juma Pass. They grabbed prisoners to measure the fortress from inside information. They intercepted military cargo to keep broken defenses broken. Next time they may target the medical camp. They may cut a water route. They may attack night patrols or burn crossbow carts directly. War does not always arrive as thousands of men charging a wall. Sometimes it arrives as one missing crate at a time. Cut the arrows and archers eventually stand useless. Cut the winches and heavy crossbows become dead wood. Cut the medical route and wounded soldiers stop returning. Cut the food and healthy soldiers weaken before another battle even begins. Wongqing looks down at his hands after thinking through that chain. The old scar across his palm has split open again. Tiny beads of blood dry quickly in the freezing wind. He opens his panel for the first quiet status check after the escort. The panel lists his name as Wongqing. His displayed lifespan reads 18 out of 117. His realm remains at peak skin tempering. Basic archery is still at great accomplishment. Its proficiency has reached 4,624 out of 10,000. Iron rhino body tempering is at small accomplishment. Its proficiency has reached 852 out of 5,000. 8 extremes frame is perfected at its displayed maximum. 2-form stance is also perfected. Loach technique remains perfected as well. Treading snow without trace is the unfinished piece drawing his attention. The technique still says not yet learned. Its proficiency now reads 73 out of 100. Before this escort, Wongqing had only 55 points. The gully added 18 through actual movement under pressure. 27 points remain before formal entry. Wongqing exhales slowly and watches the white breath disappear. The number is close, but it is not enough yet. That unfinished footwork already saved him several times inside the ambush. One slide opened the angle on the hidden handler. Another kept him from sinking while enemies controlled higher ground. Force borrowing reduced wasted strength while he moved around the cart. Those results happened before the technique even reached entry. Wongqing starts wondering what formal entry will change. Then he thinks about small accomplishment farther beyond it. Loach technique is already perfected, creating another future possibility. Perhaps both movement methods can eventually work together more naturally. Wongqing does not claim that combination exists yet. The panel has not shown it, so speculation remains only a training direction. What he knows for certain is simpler. Hu Yinggu will learn his name sooner or later. The burned granary was too damaging for the barbarian commander to ignore. White Wolf guards already know an unusually dangerous Dasha archer is operating nearby. Future search teams will not keep making the same mistakes. They may bring stronger shields. More wolves. It's better handlers. It's or tighter pursuit formations. It's Wongqing needs to be faster before those hunters return. It's he needs steadier footing when snow and rock become part of the fight. It's he needs enough endurance to preserve shooting angles after long chases. It's more arrows alone cannot solve the problem Hu Yinggu exposed. It's once distance disappears, peak skin tempering still loses badly to mid-tendon changing. It's Wongqing closes the panel with that gap still clear in his mind. It's a heavy mechanical clunk suddenly echoes from the west wall above him. It's the craftsmen have finished mounting the replacement winch. It's several men turn the mechanism together for its first real tension test. It's the half-wrecked crossbow carriage begins raising its front. Its thick arms spread slowly against the wind and snow. Its workers watch the new axle carefully while the mechanism takes load. It's nothing cracks beneath the rising tension. It's nothing bends while the winch keeps turning. It's the carriage holds the tension the old damaged mechanism could no longer manage. It's soldiers nearby begin cheering before the craftsmen are willing to celebrate themselves. It's the repaired weapon stands ready because the convoy kept one cart from tipping in a gully. It's that result is larger than the merit Wongqing has not bothered calculating yet. It's the grain raid bought time. It's the prisoner rescue protected information. It's the escort turned that time into arrows and a working crossbow. It's Wongqing's panel shows the same pattern inside his own body. Useful actions become progress he can carry forward. It's Hu Yinggu is still beyond the wall, and Wongqing is still 27 points from his next movement threshold. It's for now. Juma Pass has another weapon standing, and Wongqing is alive to keep grinding toward the next fight.